Harry Truman was devoted to Bess Truman from the time he was 5 years old and saw her in Sunday school. He never loved anybody else. He in fact, proposed to her many, many times before she finally accepted. And he was devoted to her really his whole life. And he wrote her letters on virtually everything in the White House, politics, his whole life. He was just completely emotionally open to her. But there was one exception where when he became president, of course, he was covered all of a sudden. He had all of these incredible problems after FDR died of what he was going to do. And he wasn't really all that prepared. He hadn't been, in fact, given that much information about some of the agreements that Roosevelt had made. But and at Christmas time of 1945, when he came home, there was a big snowstorm, he was late, and Bess was just upset about it and wasn't, I guess, very nice about it. He wrote this letter, which he was smart enough not to actually send, but his daughter Margaret found years later. I might also add that when Bess found out that FDR had died, she cried because she knew she would lose her privacy, because she always, even when he was a senator, she often lived in Independence, in Missouri, because she preferred living in her own home. And even when he was president, much of the time was spent at her home. But this was a letter that he wrote to her and did not send. Okay, I'm going to try it. Okay. This was December 28th, 1945. You can never appreciate what it means to come home as I did the other evening after doing at least 100 things I didn't want to do and have the only person in the world whose approval and good opinion I value look at me like I'm something the cat dragged in and tell me I've come in at last. This head of mine should have been bigger and better proportioned. There ought to have been more brain and a larger bump, ego, or something to give me an idea that there can be a #1 man in the world. I didn't want to be, but in spite of opinions to the contrary, life and time say I am. If that is the case, you, Margie, his daughter, Margaret, and everyone else who may have any influence on my actions must give me help and assurance, because no one ever needed help and assurance as I do now. If I can get the use of the best brains in the country and a little bit of help I have on a pedestal at home, the job will be done. Kiss my baby and have you in season and out, Harry.